tactics are always in flux. We always feel like at this moment in time, everything about tactics has progressed neatly. Everything about tactics makes sense. But 20 years from now, we're going to look back and say, that was kind of dumb. That should have been done away with. And like, it's interesting to be able to look at this Milan side and be like, oh, well, they were still using an archaic tactic with like the near post defender. They were using something that didn't age well with the offside trap thing. And then their possession structure and their style of pressing and their compactness, that all holds up over time.
It's funny. I mean, look, and to your point about the man at the far post, it's a double-edged sword. And obviously, no tactic is 100% foolproof. Like like you mentioned, how many times do you see someone on the post and they still can't block the shot going there? And then you also waste a man who could have been marking somebody like Hugo Sanchez. I think it was actually Rijkaard who lost him initially. And Tandil was completely unmarked too. So it was just bad all around from Milan in that situation. It is funny though. Like I can't relate to Quinta de Buitre because I was 2 years old when this game happened. Actually, I may have not even been 2 years old. 2 years old yet. I think it was 1.5. But like my equivalent is like the Galacticos. To me, like as a kid watching that team play, it was like I felt like I was watching like this flawless, almost spiritual, intergalactic like collection of footballers, just flawless, doing everything right. When you watch it like 20 years later, it's not that. So it's just different. But I don't know, like for example, I'm thinking about Toni Kroos right now, like 20 years from now. We're gonna look back on him and be like, man, I thought Kroos was good. He seemed good growing up, but like he only completed 98% of his passes. Like I don't know if his game would hold up today. I think so. Like somebody like Kroos, he's like such a good passer that he just would, he would probably age well. But I don't know. Like I feel like I wonder how much, for example, Modric would look like 20 years from now. You had that experience with Michael Laudrup, who's a legend, is one of the best players ever. And you watch one of his better games, or at least one of his more famous games, and you came away with like, it was good, but it wasn't like that good. Is there anything about today's game that we find amazing now that you think if we look back 20 years from now, it might not be that impressive?
Well, the thing with Modric is he always has that one giveaway
in
him. And so, like, I don't know, I guess the footballers 20 years from now will be, like, half cyborg, and, like, that just doesn't happen. I wonder if, like, because I think there's so many positional play imitators at the moment, and ones where, like, because it's not really, I mean, there's still not that many coaches that have, like, their fully fleshed out interpretation and all, like, this is my complex system, and I'm gonna, like, imbue it within every player so they can understand the dynamics and make decisions themselves. There's actually still not that many that you can see. It's actually more common that you have like a Gasparini or Sarri where there's like more automatisms. These are the patterns we play, and that's easier for my players to kind of figure out. And then you kind of go further back, and then you just have people who take the general principles, which is like 2-3-5 attack, circulation of the ball, overloads, and you can see the differences if you have a keen eye. And I just wonder if 20 years from now, we look back at like some of these possession sides and we're like, well, this is like incredibly stale. It's incredibly inefficient. And look at all these teams now who have like perfectly built like progression mechanisms. Like everything is vertical when it needs to be. We're generating semi-transition all the time from possession sequences. I just wonder if like, we have those like new generation of coaches and with players who are even more kind of like imbued, like it's easier to like kind of like instill this kind of tactical system in them that we look back and we're like, hey, this kind of, U-shaped buildup is kind of archaic, like what is this? And then I think we're kind of getting to the point where mid-block defending, which is still pretty common. And this was something that came up when I was watching Arsenal women versus Tottenham Hotspur women. Is like I think mid-block defending is getting to that point where this idea of just passively standing in a defensive stance and not looking to control play from a defensive perspective. I think at 10 years from now, I think we're going to look at that like that's a really bad way of defending. And I say that because I don't think you need to high press all the time, but I think you need to press all the time, whether that's in a low block, mid block, or high block. because if you give players time and space to pick their pass, right? And when I say press, like either you're directing play with your front two or front one or front three or whatever that is into the areas that you want them to go, or when they pass it into a dangerous area to a dangerous player, you like constrict the space and like not give them time, right? Which I guess sounds common sense, but you'll still find plenty of teams that do the passive mid block thing and are just like, if we just sit in lines, right, and stay compact, that's good enough. And I don't think that is, because if you have quality ball players, right, they'll just play over the top, or they'll just progress into wide areas really easily, and you'll be consistently put under pressure. I think that is a big one that we're already kind of seeing now, that 10 years from now, I think people will be really critical. They'll be like, really? Teams just sat in the center of the pitch and just didn't really do anything active with their defense? That seems kind of stupid. And for us now, that's how teams have been defending a majority of the time for a very, very long time now. And some of the better teams in history have defended that way.
Well, that's why that's why this Sachi Milan side was so ahead of its time, because it was active defending. There was so much emphasis on active defending and not like just sitting back and absorbing pressure, which can still obviously be very effective. We see teams do that now, but the idea of just like attacking the attack, like quote unquote, of just like fighting the attack by just pressing them higher up the pitch, being very active, reading the passing lanes, pressing high, and like all that stuff. That was, a lot of it was just a testament to Sachi. Like that's how he changed football in a lot of ways. That's